We'll start first of all, put your hands together first people for Mr. Paul Aherns, the owner of this car show, has put this night together. We'll also bring Dennis Coleman on stage. Dennis is the owner of this car here beside me. It's a fantastic achievement really, and Paul, thank you very much Paul, thank you very much for bringing us all here this evening, and
no bother, Sean. No bother, yeah, we'll sit down, I suppose, it'll be easier. Thanks everybody for making the effort to come. It's fantastic to see such a great crowd, and to start the Rally Masters weekend. I think it's a great, fantastic idea, and fair play to Tim Clifford and Mike Shea and Aidan Long. You know, the lads have put serious work into this show tomorrow, and it's amazing to see all these cars that I suppose we all grew up watching back in action, and the lads are busy. They can't be here, they're busy over at the race course putting together what will be probably one of the best motorsport events in Europe, I'd say, this year. But so yeah, as Shawnee said, it's great to have GXI 9427 here, and Dennis, and obviously Patrick Schneier's and all the people that drove this car. And I suppose the main man who obviously would have been a big hero of mine growing up would have been Bertie Fisher, who was probably the most famous of all the drivers, and what he did himself and Rory with that car in that particular season, and that particular Rally the Lakes. So it's 35 years in December, and it's great to have a new version with that Matt's built in the Tough Mac livery, and thanks to Kieran McAnallen for making the effort to come as well tonight, obviously. So I'll put it back to you there, Sean.
Paul, you're a huge BMW motorsport fan. But never in your day you think you'd see something like this inside your garage.
I know, look, it's fantastic. I mean, for me, rallying was the M3, and to hear that machine coming at 9,000 RPM, I'm 21 years this year with BMW, and I've been to Munich probably 18 times, and every time I go to the private museum, there's two museums, one of them is the private one, and I talk to some of the old motorsport guys that work on the E30 M3s. We still have a lot of people there who are in their late 60s and 70s who would have worked on the car, that still come in a few days a week and do bits and pieces and go to shows, and to see the car reborn by Mats. And I suppose ultimately it was Craig, who obviously was a very close personal friend of mine, and when when Mats brought the car in 21 to Killarney, and Craig absolutely drove the wheels off it, and it went viral, and it's a testament to him really, because that particular weekend I remember Mats and his dad were here. I think they had like 6 or 7 cars sold, and once Craig had drove the car and obviously won the rally, himself and Paul, it went viral and it went worldwide, and I think Mats has over 70 rally cars sold now.
That's incredible statistic, and as you say, it's all down to Craig. We'll never forget him. He was a personal friend with a lot of people in this room. Yeah. He was almost an honorary Kerry man. He loved this part of the world, loved rallying here. Thank you. While we remember people like Bertie, we remember people like Craig. We're here to talk about this fantastic machine here, probably the most iconic BMW M3 E30 in existence. It's now home, Dennis Coleman. Hard to believe that the man told me here this evening, it's 30 years ago since you got your hands on this machine. How did that come about, Dennis?
Well, I guess, like you just said there, the excitement of just watching Austin McHale and Bertie Fisher, and as soon as I could get my hands on one, well, it was hard to finance it at the time, but it was an exciting car, and as I said, it was them two drivers. I wouldn't have seen much rallying outside this country, but they were the drivers that inspired me, so that's why I went that way.
You came from 4 Lescar Mark IIs, Opus Cobra 400s, all rear-wheel drive rally cars. What was that machine like to drive compared to the Skoda and the Escort?
Yeah, you really had to wring the neck. It took a while to get into it and get her set up the way I wanted, but it was a car you couldn't half drive. With the diff, the way it was set up, you had to drive it with the right foot and slide and glide and do all the things that were nice.
You mentioned earlier to me in a private conversation, but you reckon the car was probably built for the back end, the fast sections of Carroll Lake. Bertie Fisher always said the Carroll Lake was his favourite stage as well. That machine, Carroll Lake, the good rally driver, your perfect combination.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Carroll Lake because I like fast stages anyway. It was probably easier on the body and not to have to turn the wheel too much, but it was a nice car in all conditions really. So I could say not only praise it.
I suppose, and that's when you say Carroll Lake there, I suppose the big memory we have of that 1990 rally was obviously Austin and Dermot in the black version, obviously with the white Galway version here tonight, but that black M3 in the ice was unbelievable, the onboards, unbelievable.
That's one of the things we're celebrating here tonight, is the 35 years of Bertie Fisher's win in the rally race, 35 years of that car's win. It's hard to believe it's 35 years ago, but a lot of us that grew up around that area, it was a very special rally, Paul. It was the year that the Russians came to town. They were unknown, but the snow and the ice that came Friday night, these guys lit up stages.
Yeah, it was crazy. When you look back, it's on YouTube there if you type in 1990 Rally Lakes, the onboard with Austin and Dermot under the trees in Carroll Lake, in the ice, fair play, balls of steel,
Someone say no brains. We brains we here in the first place. Dennis, of all the cars you've driven, that was rated as one of the best. You've won rallies, you've campaigned nationally, internationally in this country. That has to be one of your favourite machines. And I suppose the fact that it hasn't left the yard in 30 years, so we're keeping it.
That's another thing. I was shocked last week when I realised that I had it 30 years. I forget to look in the mirror what way I'm changing, but I suppose what was I going to say? I lost my... Say that, what were you saying?
I just thought you just give us your memories of the car, what it's like to drive, catch it by the scruff of the neck. You told me earlier today you can't half drive it.
Not really. An Escort would be easier to change direction. The Skoda probably was, but I don't know. This thing you'd have turn in earlier and she had fantastic the way she could glide and shift the whole car. But the harder and harder you drove it, the better she seemed to perform. And then as well, the way she used to excite the spectators, the following you'd have with her going through stages, the crowds going wild, so it was, I never see that in any other car. But,
and the noise, us as fans on the side of the ditch, the noise echoes off the mountains.
It you seem to drive them daft.
What's it like to take you down?
Loud. You couldn't really hear a whole lot.
Yeah.
I remember actually the first time Paul Nagel, obviously be a good friend of mine, and unfortunately he can't be here tonight, he's away with the FIA, but he sat with you in Galway in that car in '98, and I remember afterwards he said it was just unbelievable. He'd never in his life, and Paul obviously had sat in a lot of different cars, but he still says to this day that even, that time in Galway with Dennis in the M3 was just unbelievable.
And it's funny that year because we had decided to try traction control, and that time it was a very crude system. She'd be cutting, and we were the fastest rear wheel drive, but the conditions were desperate, and everyone kept coming up to us, geez, you'd be flying only for the miss.
What a car. Pick out a favourite memory, a favourite win, a favourite stage, favourite memory for the car.
I don't know, there's so many good memories to be hard to pick one, I guess.
Wins in the home rallies maybe, wins in Castleisland here in Killarney.
Yeah, it has, I suppose there's a lot of them, like Helen set in for her first time in the 99, the West Cork, and we finished second. And she was in shock. She was never hardly sat in the car. But I don't know, there's too many good memories. I couldn't pick. But like my favourite stages with the car would be in Cork and Kerry. You know, I think we have some of the best stages in the country.
You spoke earlier about that, as well as competing, you've done several national championships, several Irish Rally Championships, helping your nephews on doing gravel roads for other rallies. You've travelled practically every single stage in this country, yet it's the mountains here behind us in South Kerry and West Cork is where it's at.
Well, for me anyway, I've seen stages all over the country, and I'd have to come back here or West Cork, because they're second to none as far as I'm concerned.
And finally, Paul, as our host here tonight, you mentioned it in earlier, we're coming to full circle. 35 years ago for Bertie and Austin and that epic battle in the Rally Legends, and saw the ice and the rushes, of course, 3 BMWs at the front of it. But over the last couple of years, we've seen this regeneration of the BMW, particularly through the max variations. Potentially looking at 10 of them here in Killarney in November.
Yeah, last year I think we had 8 on the line. Matt's is hoping, I think this year there'll be 11. But I suppose you talk about the rebirth, as Matt calls it, and like when you look at, you know, some of the stage times that Donna is doing there, and like I mean, even obviously last year for himself and Rory to win the event, even up against four-wheel drive opposition, it's unbelievable, like, you know. So I think this year it should be fantastic, and please God, Donna and Rory get another win again.
Speaking of Donna and Rory, you're the next two up the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dennis, Paul, and we get Donna and Rory up here. One of them to go back 35 years, and one of them maybe to look ahead to what's happening in the rebirth, as we call it. Rory has a unique history here in Killarney. I think it's 8 Rally Legends and the historic well, it's 7. And of course, bookended by this time last year, winner in the Killarney Historic Rally alongside Donna 35 years ago, alongside Bertie. That's a whole lifetime of memories inside the car like that.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Sean. It's you know, when you think back now, when you say it 35 years ago, it's really hard to believe what's all that's happened as well during that period. But you know, I think we look at this car tonight, this GXI 9427 BMW M3. I mean, Patrick Slayers was the man that brought this very car to all our attention on the Manx Rally back in 1988, and it really is a national treasure in rally terms. And you know, to have it here tonight, and for Dennis to bring it here tonight, and it's all its glory, is a fantastic thing to do.
Look at that machine there. Tell us your memories. That is the exact colours of the car when Doug was happening 35 years ago.
Well, so we've got 35 years, so a wee bit hard to remember, but what I do remember about that rally was the great battle we had with Austin McHale, who's obviously here tonight as well, and not to mention the Russians, who didn't make it easy for either of us. But this car we came here to the rally not even fancied to win, or not fancied to win the championship, but as it turns out, in rallying you can never tell what's going to happen. So anyway, we ended up winning the rally and the championship, which is an unreal achievement. The car was run at that time by ProDrive and City Meek Motorsport, and Kieran McAdallen, our Tough Mac sponsor, who's also here tonight. It was a fantastic achievement at that time to do that.
You came that time, I suppose, from the back end of the Ford Sierra Cosworths. It's probably a big decision to move to BMW. What inspired Bertie to make that decision? Take us maybe back to his kitchen table a couple of months before the Galway International Rally, and that time, and what was he thinking to go down that road? I know Austin Fraser was probably more involved in the co-driver seat that time, but still an important part of the decision-making process.
Well, back then, and I think it was really 1988, believe it or not, Bertie had campaigned a 3-door Sierra that year, and the success was very limited with that car, and it just so happened that the M3 was coming on. Patrick had won the Manx Rally with it, and it was the go-to car to have. Austin Fraser, fantastic co-driver, who unfortunately is no longer with us, was a big part of that decision making as well. And when the decision was made to get the M3, I think the Circuit of Ireland was the first rally that Austin and Bertie did in the car, and they finished 4th or 5th, I think, and it took a wee while to get it going, but finally when the first rally I did with them was the Manx National in this car, and we won that rally. Next rally was the Donegal Rally. We had an epic battle with Austin McHale again, where we won the rally by a second, but we had a 10-second penalty, which turned into Austin winning by 9 seconds. So then on to Killarney and so on. So it's an epic car, and people often ask me, what's the favourite car that I've ever rallied in? And I've no doubt, hand on heart, it's that very M3 there. So when Donna very generously called me about 3 or 4 years ago and asked me would I be interested in coming to do Killarney and his M3, it just took me about 1 second to make my mind up, and here we are.
And that's very important, Rory, because Donna, you're part of this rebirth. You're campaigning a BMW M3 E30 these days to win in Killarney Historic Rally last year. Special occasion for yourself, of course, special occasion for Rory. Take us back in that full circle, like we're now 35 years fast forward to this time last year.
Yeah, I suppose last year was quite special. I suppose it was special for 2 reasons. I beat my son, and I keep reminding him every day that full bull, young bull. Maybe he'll learn sometime. But yeah, look, it was really special last year to win it, and to win it with Rory. You know, given the history and that, it's one that's right up there. You know, so and you never know. We'll go at it again this year, and yeah, you never know what will happen.
One of the 11, of course, that Paul is talking about. Tell us your own thought process here. I know you came through the ranks of modern rally cars, Ford Focus War rally cars, Mitsubishi Evo 91 rallies, and all these machines. You got the notion for historic rally in recent years, but you went for the Manx BMW as well. What was your thought process in thinking, I'll go BMW?
I was an opportunist. A friend of mine had the car. He was stuck with it. And I just, I gave him a low bid one morning that he accepted, and I said, yeah, so I think it wasn't by design, but driving the car is wonderful. It's such an easy car to drive. It really is so forgiving, it's predictable, and although we did have a fairly major crash in Spain last year, that there was driver error, not the car, but they are so easy to drive, and like Dennis says, the harder you push them, the better they are.
The more aggressive you're in the car, the better she performs.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you just keep pushing it on. It's amazing what you can do when you get the confidence. You know, so for me, it's a joy to drive.
You're a big fan of motorsport history. Your own museum in Donegal is a testament to that. But here we are, we're reliving the history of BMW motorsport in Ireland. What kind of feeling you get around here this evening when you see all these cars, especially this particular machine and the replicas and the Tough Bike and the extra vision here behind me? This is the iconic era of Irish rallying in the mid-80s.
Yeah, I suppose one thought that crossed my mind is that car really should be in my museum. So it's, we'll have to try Dennis again.
You're the second man here tonight to try to buy it.
No, I've been trying to buy it for about 10 years, but anyway. So thankfully it's still in the country, you know, and that's where it really should be, no matter what happens, because it probably is the most iconic M3 there is in the world, you know, and to have it here in Ireland is really special. So hopefully it will remain here for long into the future.
And days like today and days like tomorrow give the fans, especially the younger fans who probably never saw this car in action, a chance for that era of Irish rally to be relived. And tomorrow's all about that as well.
Well, what you find, and my son is rallying obviously in the GWRC, and that we're at a lot of these events, and I find them actually quite boring. And you go then to like the likes of the historic rally, where you get the sound, you get the flames coming out of the exhaust. There is excitement, you know, and I see historic rallying becoming more and more prevalent in the future, because that's what we love, you know, and it brings us back to what drew us to rallying in the first place. Nice quiet cars that are predictable and aren't dramatic. You know, there's no buzz in that. Yes, it's tenths of seconds, but when you see these cars coming on full chant, you know, spitting flames and that, people get excited about that, you know, and I think that historic rallying will grow and grow in popularity in the future, and I think there is room certainly for another historic rally in Ireland, a big historic rally. You know, I had been speaking to somebody about a circuit of Ireland again, a bit like a Roger Albert Clark, where the Roger Albert is run every second year. It's a 5-day event. It's oversubscribed every year. Could we do something similar in Ireland to run a circuit of Ireland again for all these old cars? And I think we could.
Could we have a quick vote inside the room here tonight? Who wants something like that? Yeah. I think you're onto something there, Donald. That's a fascinating idea, and it could possibly be done if you use your head and use the Clarny Historic Rally date. And I'd be cheeky here with Clarny District Motor, so I think Director of Clarny District Motor, I apologise. But why not run the Roger Albert Clark this year and a 5-day Cameron Rally next year? Alternative years, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think, if we're saying now that there's possibly 11 of these cars, BMWs alone, starting in Killarney this year, the amount of escorts that are out there. Now we're going into the Group A era, we're back now to the Imprezas. I'm actually building a Toyota 205 Group A car, purely for historic rallying, whether it's in Ireland or Europe and that. So we're going back up even to the year 2000. We're back to the early WRC cars. That this is what's in store for us in the future in historic rallying, and it's going to be really exciting.
And I think tomorrow's all about that as well, because you go back to the early 2000s in Ireland, and you had record numbers of world rally cars. Per capita, I think we had more world rally cars in that period of time than any other country in the world. And the list of machinery that we're talking about tomorrow is 50 cars from the Group A, Group B era, and the World Rally Car era of Irish rallying.
Yeah, I think obviously the Group A era and the WRC era, it was super exciting. I don't know if anybody watches any of the national rallies today, and you have all your R5s, and then Niall Maguire comes along in his Subaru S12B, and all the heads turn. You see the spectacle coming, the noise and the popping and the banging and that. And I think that's what's missing in rallying is the spectacle, and it's a little bit too predictable, So for me, the future of rallying needs to change in terms of the regulations that are coming for 27, that it needs to be a little more dramatic. We need a little bit more noise, a little bit more aero. And if we don't do that, I see that the historic rallying will grow and grow in popularity.
That's a question I think we should direct to Rory as well. Like, a man has come through the ranks. You started long time ago, Hilton and top at some weeks. They're historic rally cars now. Into this area here, where probably at your glory days of your career, winning rallies, now part of the historic scene. It's special for you too, and that full circle is part of your story.
Yeah, for sure, Sean. I've come full circle with the M3s, as you say. But James Cullen, who's also here tonight, which I'm glad to say, he and I started out many, many years ago in the Hillman Avenger, and it was pretty much one of our first rallies back in 1978, I think, or 1979. And we've been through very, very many cars since that. But all through that time, as Donna said, we've been in cars that are capable of being, they sounded like rally cars. They were noisy, you could go sideways in them, they were a bit of a spectacle to watch. So that really is what the spectators want to see, and really we have progressed right through the entire evolution of the rally cars right up until the present days. And like I said, this is my favourite car, which is 1988 car, so I'm all for it. I think it's the way forward. I think that this type of car has a bright future.
You just reminded me of a great statistic about your rally career, something I came across in recent years. You rallied in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 90s and the 20s, and you have actually won an overall rally in each one of the decades. That's some achievement, in all fairness.
I don't know what to say about that, Sean. It makes me feel a wee bit old when I look at it like that, but I've been very fortunate. Yeah, I've had a lot of victories, and I've had a lot of very good drivers through the years, and very good safe drivers. And you can't win any rally obviously without your driver, and the co-driver is a very important part of the equation in winning a rally. And there's lots of other things as well, but it's very important. But I feel I contribute a wee bit, and my experience helps me as we go along. But it's a bit insane to think I've won rallies during all those decades, but there you go.
Fantastic achievement, absolutely fantastic achievement. We finished up with one question. This is almost like getting the band back together. Obviously there's one man here that can't be with us, it's Bertie. We will remember Bertie on nights like this. But the likes of yourself, Bertie, Kieran McAllen, or Sidney Meek, that was some team back in the day.
Well, back in the day, in my time with Bertie and with Kieran and Jerry McGarty, who's here as well, was part of the team. Like back then, we had a very, very good team. It was built on very sound footing. Bertie had a very good idea about how to go about winning these rallies. You always needed the best car. You needed the best team around you to run the car. You needed the best co-driver. You needed the best engineers and the best tyres. And when you put that package together, you stood a very good chance of winning. And Bertie's outlook was, to build the team on a very sound structure like that. And then it was up to us to do the job. He was an immense man in rally terms, business terms, family man. And he was somebody we could all learn from back in the day. And he leaves an unreal legacy. And I feel I'm very much part of that and try to keep the Fisher name out there as much as possible when I go on rallies. And inevitably or invariably, people ask me about Bertie and about the Fishers. And, I'm very proud to talk to them about that and speak to them about that and, maybe continue that legacy in some small way.
Roy Kennedy, Donald Valley, two heroes. We look forward to seeing you back in Killarney in just over 2 months' time for the Killarney Historic Rally. We have two more final guests that we bring on stage. And one knows well, I'm going to ambush the other one. I'm very sorry, but put your hands together, please, for 5-time Irish Champion Rally Champion Austin McHale and the version of his cars over there. And European Rally Champion, multiple Belgian Rally Champion, multiple Dutch Rally Champion, 1988 Manx International Rally winner in this very car, the one and only Patrick Shires from Belgium. I think Castle you do better than that for 2 heroes of our sport. You do not get stars like this in the local garage on a Friday night. Have a seat there, guys, and if you're more comfortable standing, we'll have a chat here. Have a seat here and we'll have a quick chat about our life and times in BMW Motorsport. You're both very welcome to Castleisland, you're both very welcome to Aherns Garage. I'll start with you, Watson, 5-time Irish champion, but we're talking here about probably one of the glory days of Irish Championship, the battles with yourself, Bertie, the Russians, the snow and the ice in Killarney 35 years ago. Take us to the trip of memory lane to that morning when you came out of the Glen Eagle Hotel and the place is covered in snow.
You're not really looking for a lot, are you? First of all, I'd like to say I'm delighted. I never thought back in '88, watching Patrick win the Manx, that I'd be getting an M3, but as Bertie and myself had a discussion at that time after the Manx to go the M3 route, and I think that BMW is in everybody's heart and very close to everybody's heart. I know when I was 17 going on 18, my second road car was 2002, and I have to admit, apart from what I learned how to drive in a tractor, the 2002 was a very forgiving car. You could do a lot of things with it, and it just shows the spectacle of what BMW is. And as I said to you, if you've done a survey on people that could afford, or not saying they can't afford BMWs and that, but it would be very much a car to have.
It was a great year of Irish motorsport as well. What days, what times we had, what fun we had all around the country. These cars. One of the things that stands out for me was the noise, the music echoing off the mountains. Great for us outside here, but what was it like inside the car?
Well, inside the car it was always very noisy. Obviously we had the proper intercoms and that, but it was a fantastic car, and you'd always have the spectators saying, to be spectating on the stage, you'd come to the end of the stage, in the service area, who was on the pipe and who wasn't, and who was letting off early or who was braking early or whatever, which the car would tell really with the sound out of it. But coming back to the fantastic car that the BMW M3 is, and we had 2 good years, and the first time that I was out in the car was out in Galway, and Self and Bertie was the main competition in it, and we got a win there, which was fantastic. And then we went on to the circuit. I can't remember where we finished the circuit, but I think we were in the first 5, and then we got the win again in Donegal. And over the 2 years when I had the M3s, Bertie and ourselves, it was always very competitive. There was only a handful of seconds between us. We lost some, he lost some for, we talked about Donegal, about the second or the penalties and that, and then here I lost the championship that year in Killarney, the Rory was talking about 1990 with the problem with the diff. Not saying there was anything wrong with the car, but I think that they just didn't tighten up the bolts of the diff properly. And we stopped, we had to finish 5th in Killarney, and to win the championship, but I didn't begrudge it to Bertie. At least BMW got it, and we had the Russians over in the other M3, and I think there were people couldn't probably pronounce their names, but they called them the Gorbachevs, you know. So that was recognised of what they were at the time. Was obviously, you know, so.
They weren't Putins anyway.
So that was the story in that year.
Patrick, you're very welcome back to County Kerry. Your second trip in probably as many years. Tell us your memories of this fantastic car. This is the car you won the 1988 Manx International Rally. It was unheard of for a guy to come over from Belgium to take on this very specialised rally, and you won the rally.
Yeah, when I drove this car, it was brand new. So it's a long time ago. But anyway, in '88, I did a full season in Belgium and many rallies in Europe, like Madeira Rally, Rally de Garrigue, and then we came to the Isle of Man, and yeah, we beat everybody. So it surprised myself, but it felt comfortable, and the car was so good. And I still remember the last day we ran out of rear tires, and I told David Richards, yeah, you can do whatever you want. I need tires, even if you have to charter a plane from Italy, from Pirelli, and bring them over. He said, yeah, I see what I can do, because the rally before in Ypres, I lost on the same way because we ran out of tires, and Droogmans won at the end. So the last morning we had tires, to our circuit tires in the rear, but we finished the job, and we could win, and it's still an iconic car.
What kind of memories invoked this evening when you saw the car parked in front of the showroom here, the registration number of the car? Take us on a little trip to memory lane. How did you feel when you saw the machine?
When I saw the car, I was actually, I must say, I was a little bit disappointed, because the steering wheel is on the wrong side now. But anyway, it looks fantastic, this car, and yeah, I'm looking forward to drive it tomorrow, or one of similar cars tomorrow.
Now, for the record, guys, it's Bertie Fisher that converted the car to right drive after Patrick, so that's how that happened. Great to have you here. Great to have such a love of BMW motorsport in our locality. What's it been like? What kind of reception you got from the local fans, the local people?
But it's always nice to come here. I love Ireland always. I did many rallies here before, a long time ago. But anyway, it's always good fun, and you have here rally people, let's say. Everybody loves the rally, and that's in some countries that's different. But here, it's fantastic.
You had a very unusual experience this afternoon, Patrick. You got your first ever opportunity to drive the Wasgap stage. You drove it down from Kidmere to Mucker's House. Describe your journey in that stage.
It was fantastic. It was a right-hand drive car, but a normal road car, and it felt immediately fantastic. It's a beautiful stage, and when we came on the junction right downhill, it was the opposite way, I think we drove. That was a little bit more technical, and it's difficult because it's an open road today. We had to drive slowly. We made some pictures, but when I came at the end, I should do a U-turn and going back to the start and do it again and over and again. It's a really fantastic, good stage, and technical and fast and twisty and bumpy, and you have everything you need in a. The only thing we missed was a good rally car, like an M3.
Austin, you've been well familiar with Wasgap as well as the local favourite in this part of the world. You must have some great memories of that famous road as well.
Yeah, but I think Malls Gap is the favourite stage with everybody. You know, it's always with the competition that is saying who's got the secret of Malls Gap this year. And usually whoever's fastest on it, well, they either hadn't got it or they didn't learn it or whatever. But my favourite stage in Killarney, the Killarney Rally, would be Ballybema. I think Cod's Head, Ballybema and our Groom are three classic stages. I think they're probably three of the best stages in the country. And obviously you have a few in Donegal as well. I have to include them, or I kind of go back to Donegal. But they are classic stages, you know. And Malls Gap has been, especially when it's run back in the late 70s and 80s and early 90s, when it wasn't, before the roads were widened and that, you know, and it was very demanding.
A lot of people drive this BMW M3 talking Carroll Lake. I know there's a favourite stage of Bertie's stage you like. Carroll Lake, the BMW M3, they're probably made for each other. There's famous footage too of yourself in the dark in that snow and icy valley 35 years ago. Yourself and Dermot Lawrence here as well, you're navigating at the time. On that, the classic stage along the shores of Carroll Lake in the dark.
Yeah, definitely Carroll Lake is a classic stage, you know, but it would be very quick, and you wouldn't be as direct coming off the end of Carroll Lake as you would at Bannockbeamon. When you come off the end of Malta Gap or Bannockbeamon after you're doing 14 or 15 miles and the wrists are locking, you know that you have definitely be with no power steering and that, you know, so the current rally cars with the power steering and all now at the moment are, I don't know what Walter all used to say, but I won't make the comment, I might insult somebody.
You're all right, you sit here, we won't tell you. Patrick, tomorrow you haven't been reintroduced to your car yet, but they're still building it at post, but it's okay. But you're going to drive the BMW M3 like this, but in the same colours as Castle in 1988 with the Manx door string as well. That will create great memories as well. Will you tell us a story about the police on the Isle of Man too, please?
No, it will be fantastic to drive an M3 again, and maybe it will bring memories back for sure, but it's still a long time ago. But we are planning ourselves to buy one, a new one, and do the Belgian Championship, historic championship next year, and maybe some rounds in Europe.
Wow, so another match car coming. Could we have 12 cars in Canary in November?
Maybe, you never know, but it will be good fun, that's for sure.
Very good. Patrick Snars, Austin again, two of the greatest heroes of Irish rally, European rally, great to have you here. I'm going to hand back to Paul one more second. I'm just being told there's two more legends that walk in the doors. I'm going to just pounce them. Is Andrew Nesbitt here and James Ryan here? I just heard you walk in the door, sir. I'm sorry, you don't thank the king. Two more legends before we finish here. Here we are. Push up the steps there. James is going to do the shortcut.
You have to go up the steps.
Great to see James in period uniform and the BP car, because the BP colour is actually very important to this story, because after the Fisher and Nestle, we're changing batteries there. Is this one working?
Yep.
While you're getting the technical setup down there, just a reminder that tomorrow's event is for two very important local charities, the Jack and Jill Foundation and the Law Leonard Foundation. They're two charities that look after sick children all over Ireland, but every 18 euros that's raised helps a child for an hour. And everybody that's bought tickets for tomorrow, everybody that's supporting the event is contributing another 18 euros towards that figure. So bear that in mind in anything that you're doing over the next 24 hours, that we're doing this for charity. The two charities are the Jack and Jill Foundation and the Laura Lynn Foundation, and they're both to help the families of sick children, not just in County Kerry, but all over Ireland as well. James and Andrew, it's great to have you here. I didn't need to ambush you, but I just got a little notice there that you were here in town, so I was able to talk to you about it. We're here tonight to talk about GXI 4927, one of the most famous rally cars in Ireland, and you've had experience in several different fights, James.
Yeah, that particular car, I suppose, was the car that introduced me to Bertie Fisher. By the way, I said this from the dog basket. I don't know how it escaped, but it did. In any event, Bill bought the car from Bertie, and at the start of stages, there would be delays and whatever. So Bertie would come back and he'd sit into the driver's seat and he'd be pushing the steering wheel or whatever and reliving some of his daring do's in the car. And he was in the passenger seat, and as a green young lad from Cork. Cork lad, yeah. It was, it's a great, you know, I got introduced to him, got to know him. I suppose we got to a stage at the end, towards the very end, where we were probably the two oldest doing Mal's Gap, and we were sitting below in the, or standing below in the car park in Gleneagle, looking up at the clouds as to what tires and what you know, where we go. So there's, as I say, from a young fella, we ended up being one of the old lads, the likes of Rory and Brian, I suppose would be two of the other elder lemons.
But yeah, the car. Listening to some of the lads earlier on, my recollection of that thing was if you didn't catch it by the scruff of the neck and bait the living tar out of it to kill you, right? In plain language. And there's one thing, one memory I have of it. There's a section of Balakbima, as I say, Austin's famous stage, that hasn't been run, I'd say, in quite a while. It's when the stage starts down in Blackwater and comes up and runs the main road and comes down to the hairpin lift down over all the bumps. But it's a very, very fast, wide open section of the road. I can still remember a 2-story house in the left, and there's some bit of a little dip in the road, which no other car I've ever been in found it, but that thing found it. And the yoke stood in its nose. We did stage twice. And my memory of Bill, I said, second time coming through to be some test to the man. He kept the shoe in and she went down the road in her nose the second time. So yeah, it's an iconic car. For me, the BP colours are iconic. And it was a stage when we were competing against one another. Isn't that right, Andrew? I can't remember what you were in, but you were in lots of things.
It was. I went off the road in lots of things as well, James. What were you trying to tell me there?
Nah, they were great days, and it's fantastic to see so many of the people from that era still here, and still corpus mentis. If any of us were ever corpus mentis.
Thank you, James. Andrew, great to have you here as well. You have great memories of this car as well. You drove this very machine, and you have great memories of BMW national wins, Donegal Rally wins.
Yeah, the car is amazing. First of all, I apologise for being late. I only got left Belfast at 2 o'clock. But anyway, only stopped once with the guards. So I do apologise to everyone. Look, it's an amazing car. Brian Murphy and I were sitting using this car. Brian's there as well. We've really good memories of this car for different reasons. We won the Cavan Rally, the White Horse Rally, I think it was, in this car. Probably the second last time we won Cavan. We were in a 6R4 Metro with a big accident in Donegal. As a lot of people would know, that we managed to take all the wheels off the 6R4 Metro up in the mountain. And so when we got landed, Brian says, what are we going to do now? We've no money, and Bill Connolly's put this car up for sale. And I remember going down to Bill's garage and saying to him, will we get everything with her? He says, everything, because I'm finishing rallying. And this was our entry point into the BMW, and it was a fantastic car, very fast. Remember the diff, you just didn't want to break it because it was the one item that you could snap if you were in dry tarmac. And as James said, she'd stand in the nose the odd time. I think, Brian, I remember on the last stage in Cavan, James Leckie was chasing us down in the wet in the 4-wheel drive car that he had, and he was coming at us quite quickly. And I said to Brian, he says, we can't let this 4-wheel drive car beat this wonderful M3. And I remember standing in its nose, going down the straight, and I got a prolapse disc out of it. But we still won the rally, so the disc was forgotten about pretty quickly. But James reminded me very subtly, and I couldn't believe my navigator for many years would say this to me just as I'm coming up on stage. He says, Andrew, I remember following you up Mal's Gap in that yoke. Yeah. If you all know what happened to me in Mal's Gap, I took 3 wheels off her. And James proceeded to drive past me. And Brian and I were on top. Remember we hit the 17 concrete posts, Brian? Not Mal's Gap. Knockalla. The dementia's kicking in. I'm 65 last week. Anyway, we took the 14 or 15, 16, 17 concrete posts out. 2 left-hand wheels, front, rear, back wheel, and that was us grounded. But the car wasn't actually damaged because there was a great sump guard on her, and she just took the battering under that. The car was perfect, bar the wheels that come off her. But there's a famous photograph out there, and I see Gary Jennings and Connor laughing at this. We picked up the wheel off the road because the next guy was going to drive into it and probably have a crash as well. And I threw the wheel down the hill, on the top of the hill, and the only other place it could go was over the cliff and into the sea. Like it was 500 feet down into the sea in Donegal. And off it went, and Brian laughs at me. He says, well, what did you do that for? There was a good tyre in that. Not to mention the tyre, there was a good disc on it as well. Brake pads, brake calipers, the whole lot went. And off it went and disappeared. And about 45, 50 minutes later, we could see this old gentleman coming up the side of the hill a long way off. And he comes up to me and he says, you had a bit of a crash. I says, yeah. We lost a few wheels. He says, how many wheels did you lose? I says, well, I've two here and one disappeared over the cliffs there. He says, I was down in a fishing boat and it landed beside me. And he says, I tried to catch it and it disappeared. So he tried to recover the wheel from me, but it was too heavy because the brake disc and calipers and everything was still on it. So if any of you learned diving men are around here, there's I can tell you exactly where it went off the cliff. But thankfully Brian and I didn't go off the cliff, and it was one of those moments in time you'll never forget. And as my son said to me recently at the dinner table at Christmas, he says, Dad, how many times were you on the podium in Donegal? I says, it must have been 9 or 10. He goes, no, it was 7. I says, okay, but that's maybe what it was. Yeah, but you also crashed 7 times. So there's nothing like your family to bring you back down to earth and just let you know who you are. And that's the sport we're in. And it's a great sport. There's good days and there's bad days. And for sure, there's great friends, and we're all here tonight. And thank you for having us here tonight.
I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. It's been fantastic. You had some proper legends that are coming here tonight. And thank you to the crowd for coming here tonight. It's great to see a great crowd here in the Aherns on Friday night. To our host, Paul Ahern, to our photographer, man, Mikey Cameron, well known navigator. If you want your wedding photograph snapped, there's the man who's into that business. And thank you very much, Aherns. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you all in the Canary Race on 20:30 tomorrow morning.
Thank you.